SITREP as follows.
Transaction approved.
No, they're here already.
Tommy!
Since last night's declaration
Today,
of martial law, the soldiers are moving in to secure key areas in all major
In response to UN presence in Minneapolis.
Last night I dreamt about how things were.
Of every enemy of the state!
And then I woke up here.
Cut crew.
We cut crew from the budget.
You had a budget?
See, now you're hitting on my main point.
The really cool thing about Gray State is that what we're doing from the standpoint of the marketing and taking our time and gathering our resources and getting ready to push it at the right moment is something that most films around the Twin Cities aren't doing.
Out in Hollywood or out in New York or Chicago, whatever. They do these things. Around here, nobody does that.
I'm really impressed with the marketing aspect of Gray State. The photos look amazingly professional. The website looks incredible. All of these things lend a professionalism and a high production value to something that isn't even made yet, that attracts attention. It demands attention. The more that Dave and Mitch apply their knowledge to the marketing aspects, it makes it comparable to huge budget features, and it draws the eye.
The trailer is almost secondary to the concept push itself. We are generating something like 25 behind-the-scenes videos. They're pushing this concept, showing that, yeah, we planned for this, and we did this, and this is what we get. And this is with no budget. And we've already passed a lot of local films on Facebook in popularity, and we're in hibernation. If we approach an investor with a completed trailer and we have 10,000 Facebook fans, a movement behind it, that's already a sale.
Filmmakers have not been able to utilize the resources that they can through Facebook and the marketing aspect on it and figure out, first off, who's your demographic? Who's your niche? How are you going to contact the people who actually have deep pockets? What's your plan of taking the film to the next level? How are you going to be able to distribute it? How are you going to get in contact with those people?
It's a big marketing package. And we hand these, like, go to a potential investor or something like that. We give them these things like, this is what we have done, this is what we are prepared to do, how dedicated we are to this project, and with your help, we can make this project.
Conversations I've had with other actors and other directors, we've talked about the detail and how much time and effort is going into just a trailer.
Most concept trailers never see the light of day or never really get off the ground, let alone you're putting a lot of funding and money into a product that you're hoping to lead to the actual production of the film itself.
A lot of work has gone into the concept trailer because they're looking to sort of show this as a very wide concept, a very big, broad-based concept that envelops an entire country. So it's going to take a lot of work. These things definitely take time.
It's all about the quality. It's not about the quantity. And this is where people get really confused because a lot of filmmakers are like, well, I'm going to pump out films like this, shorts, boom, boom. And when they do that, it's like this.
I think so much work has gone into a concept trailer because they believe in what they're writing about.
I know with David and Mitch as filmmakers, they wanted to do a lot of things and they wanted to push the barrier and the envelope as much as possible.
There's a ton of detail, a lot of footage, a lot of options to do a lot of different things. And in addition to just one standard trailer, there's huge opportunity to do ongoing promotion.
If you guys putting this much effort into it, then you care about what the story's going to be, and to me that's the most important thing.
The mistake I think a lot of film producers and directors make is that they send it out and it's kind of send it out and they will watch it, and maybe they will, but the way Facebook and the internet works, things are there and gone in a millisecond. So you really have to put together a campaign to get that information out there.
All this buzz that people have for Gray State, we didn't start it. We just started shooting. We started doing a scene here, a scene there, involving people that we wanted, and it just generated from there.
It was crazy. We didn't do anything to hype the film at all. All the hype has come from people being on set.
The people who have worked on Gray State already are like evangelists. I kid you not.
The more people that were brought on to Gray State, the more they started talking about it and publicizing it, and it just became this huge buzz. Like, tell me more about Gray State. Hey, how can I get on that set?
People working on feature films being shot during the same time. The cast and crew on that feature film was talking about Gray State.
I think everybody's in anticipation.
But we knew we had to use that hype for our own good and push that because we knew it being successful was going to be built on word of mouth and grassroots.
The things that we're showing, the things that we're saying are appealing to people, and it's making it a very popular idea.
I think people are finally seeing a film that it's a direct reflection of what reality is actually becoming. And I think people are, at this point, are extremely happy and excited for a project like this to show that.
I think there's a huge amount of potential for the Gray State idea. The incredible professionalism of the shoot, the really awesome look of the trailer. I think it's going to get some attention, and I think it's going to get some budgetary attention, some financial attention, which it really deserves.
I think Gray State would definitely run into some problems because they're pushing the envelope. With anything that's pushing the envelope or trying to get a message out there that maybe not everybody agrees with, you're going to have some things you run in with.
I think it's going to go over well with whomever you show it to.
I think it'll go over well with them. Whether they want to actually give us money to do it, who knows?
The way that it's being done, I mean, the interviews, doing a trailer and not just shooting the feature, we can get investors interested in the project so that we can get funding, so that we can actually make something that's great.
We're saying, well, anyone can make a movie these days because for $3,000 you get pro quality gear. Well, yeah, it's all what you do with it. A tube of paint is cheap, but not everyone's Picasso. So.
Because in this day and age, not only are we talking about creating an effective story, but this story can only be produced if it's got the financial backing to create it.
I'd like to see him get it made and have it actually go somewhere and be noticed as being something that got made in Minnesota. And wow, they pulled something off with nothing.
Is immensely ambitious and requires a great deal of financial backing, let's be honest. So they understand that a good concept marketing piece like a trailer with posters and websites, distribution ideas, really the effectiveness of how they can create the story, knowing all that ahead of time so that they can offer this to investors so that they know that what they're investing in knows what they're doing and will immediately not have any question about any aspect of the production. David and Mitch and Danny have already answered those questions for any investor that has them.
Hopefully we get some fantastic funding so we can make a bomb movie.
And we can. There's no doubt in my mind. There's enough resources here and talent to actually do it.
My idea on doing films in the Twin Cities is pretty much this is our home, and we can do everything that they can do on the West Coast. And now all we have to do is show them that we can do it. We obviously have the talent, we have the people in Minnesota, we have the military group, Bullet Exchange, we have open air action design, we have great camera people, great directors, great production companies. All we have to do is come together and show that we can do exactly what they do out there. And to have all those pieces kind of come together for a local film and to work that great really surprised me and made me happy too, because that's obviously our ultimate goal.
It'd be fun to see the finished product.
Oh, it's going to be great. People are going to love it. They're going to get some funding, and then we're all going to get a job. Woohoo!
It's a professional, intelligent film. It's groundbreaking on what it's trying to do, from the visual aspect to the storytelling to the production.
I'd like the feature to be so good that people outside of Minneapolis are like, wow, again, because I don't think that anybody ever says wow when they think Minneapolis.
Gray State is making waves. This is just within the regional aspect. This is before we start doing our national.
We have generated this concept that has resonated with people. With just the promise of a concept trailer, we're competing with other local feature films that have already got their budget, already shot, and they're on the downslope already. We're looking at the upslope.
I can't see Gray State not being a success. It's definitely gonna knock it out of the park.
It will get funded, it will be shot, and it will be made.
This is the rise. We're just starting out. That is my favorite part about Gray State, is that I hardly need to sell the concept.
Oh, working on Gray State was such a positive experience, and I was so glad to be a part of it. And I hope, sincerely, that we can move on to a feature film where I can work with these guys day in and day out and be a part of a really exciting process.
Is the Gray State real? Absolutely, it's real. We see it every day. We see it in the news. We see it on headlines, but people still don't acknowledge it. People don't want to recognize that it's actually here.
When it comes down to it, Gray State is about reality. There's your day-to-day reality that you concern yourself with, and then there's a reality that takes place just off the sidelines. The real conflict of Gray State revolves around breaching that veil.
Martial law, the stripping of your rights, your liberties, your freedom, encroaching on private property, even your free will. That is the Gray State. And yes, it is real, and yes, it is here.
Most of the films are, entertainment, and I think this goes beyond entertainment to really have a message, and most of the films that I've probably worked in here in the Twin Cities have not taken that next step.
I think that among the innumerable projects I've done, Gray State definitely stands out like a beacon as a unique project as a whole itself.
It kind of fits in perfect, timing-wise, of what's going on with the government, even the police forces or different things like that. You couldn't ask for better film to come out now.
At first I thought it was kind of cool because there was a lot of action going on, but as I heard a little bit about the concept, it became a little eerie.
The ideas that they're dealing with in Gray State are definitely very frightening. If it is true, that's frightening in and of itself, but almost what's more frightening is not knowing whether it's true or not.
The idea of Gray State scares me. As I watch the occupation movements, the protests in the Middle East, the financial fights in Europe that are going on right now, I do have fear. I do have fear about what the future holds.
Something of this magnitude has never really been done in the Twin Cities film community, I think, just from my years being here. I think it's never been done because I don't think people have ever tried to envision of doing something like this before, as in like a dark, character-driven piece with a compelling story, but yet intense military action. A lot of people don't have that experience, and what David and Mitch have brought to the table has helped them achieve this dream and this realization, but also in the mindset of saying, F it, why hasn't this been done?
I didn't really know that it was going to turn out to be this epic story about, a country gone wrong. I've always joked that they're producing a docudrama. Hopefully it doesn't quite turn into a documentary.
Well, it's certainly not a documentary by strict definition. Is it something that can happen? I'd say absolutely it can happen. And in fact, I'd say that history has shown us that it has happened more than once. It's a fictional story, but it's a real scenario.
I believe the message of Gray State is not a documentary, but it's also not a fiction film. It's in this weird zone where it's based off of fact, but it hasn't happened yet.
The movie, as I understand it, it's kind of a dystopian, near future kind of thing. It's kind of like 1984.
I like that.
But I don't really know anything else about it at all.
It's sort of the government behind the government, the power behind the power. There's sort of an Orwellian element to it.
I see it as a very real possibility, and in the last few years, it's becoming even more realistic. I mean, you're seeing the potential complete collapse of America, of a global economy. We're seeing the Orwellian nightmare unfold. We're seeing this mass surveillance society.
I think it's very realistic that we could live in a dystopian society where dissent is legal.
I mean, you think about Orwell, something like 1984 or even Animal Farm, something like that. He wasn't just imagining this stuff. I mean, this was really going on. We know in our history that this kind of thing, at least on some scale, is possible to do.
It's really going to sneak up on you. There's going to be a lot of normal, everyday things that you're going to recognize. You're going to be able to see that it doesn't take much to turn it from being what we're used to in the suburbs to people lining up outside of Walmart demanding food. The fact that Gray State talks about the federal government being in charge of food distribution is probably the most realistic thing about it.
I think one of the scariest things about Gray State is it doesn't take much of a stretch of the imagination to make the entire scenario plausible.
Twisting the normalcy, if you will, of everyday life into something that's really ugly is going to be the most interesting part of this movie.
We've seen other countries, modern countries, they have electricity and running water and all these other conveniences. We've seen them fall into and become brutal dictatorships.
I think it could very well come to that based on the things that are happening in the news, and we're seeing, the collapse of our economy, so many different things happening.
They have paved roads, they have running water, they have electricity, they have cable TV. So what is it that keeps it from happening in the United States?
Being Americans, we have a lot of freedoms. And what if those freedoms are taken away?
Gray State portrays one potential future for American society, and I saw this and wanted to think, well, that's just one of many possibilities, but it's scary to think how we're already halfway there. We're already at the light gray state, and it's all shades of gray.
If you really want to wake up and realize what's going on in your world today, take examples out of Gray State and go Google search some terms. Google search, FEMA camps. Google search Agenda 21, martial law. And don't just look at the first link. Look at the .gov website link and really read and spend some time researching. Anyone that does will be quite shocked and amazed at what they find.
I think one of the first things they need to do is just look at history, look at the history of the United States and the history of the world, and acknowledge that things like this can happen, things like this have happened, things like this are happening right now.
Things that we would have never believed just a few years ago are now reality. NDAA, secret arrest, the announcement of $40+ billion in the Washington Post to launch 30,000 drones in the next 8 years, weaponized against the American people.
It is estimated that drone attacks kill 50 non-targeted persons for each intended target.
The basis for the majority of our foreign and domestic policy today, our foreign policy of drones bombing brown people overseas, and now the domestic policy of drones policing us here at home that we only know about now through a Freedom of Information Act request, where we have 63 launch sites in the United States, some of which are not just NASA and military installations, but actual universities throughout the country. And we have no idea how many of these drones are out there.
We see the globalists building a giant police state control grid and calling themselves technocrats. A technocrat is a group of dictators who use technology to control people.
Incrementally, it's been happening again and again and again. 5 years ago, we didn't have 63 drone sites in this country. 5 years ago, we didn't have the NDAA. 5 years ago, there wasn't a push for SOPA and PIPA and now ACTA and beyond to further control the internet. 2004, for instance, free speech zones were unknown. Everywhere was a free speech zone. That's what this country was founded on. It's a peaceful assembly.
You are an American citizen, and you shall be arrested for having freedom of speech and using the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. The Constitution is a very dangerous concept. Do not dare try to invoke the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. This is no longer America. This is Walmart, the United States of America.
As they encroach on our rights, as they say there are more and more threats out there and terrorism is real, we're taking off our shoes first, and then we're getting patted down, and then we're getting body scanned and radiated and patted down again, and now I'm getting swabbed with my hands to check for explosives.
Do you like to fly?
Yeah.
Do you think we should be treated like cattle?
No, yeah.
Yeah, I do. You do?
Absolutely, I do.
Do you think there's integrity in politics or integrity in banking?
Wait, no, go back to that.
Go back?
You don't think that airport security is a good thing? You know what? They're not violating anybody's rights.
They
You
are.
don't have to fly if you don't want to.
Every American, every person on United States soil or international soil can be deemed as a terrorist. If they have really any reason to want to detain you, they don't need to acknowledge your Fourth Amendment rights.
It's what supported things like the Patriot Act and now the NDAA and the ever-encroaching police state.
By order of the City of Pittsburgh Chief Police, I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately disperse. You must leave the immediate vicinity. If you remain in this immediate vicinity, you will be in violation of the Pennsylvania Crimes Code, no matter what your purpose is. You must leave. If you do not disperse, you may be arrested and or subject to other police action.
We are already beginning to fall to the gray state. We are already going into a scientifically designed Orwellian control system that is meant to use humans up like natural resources.
We're already in a gray state, so to speak. We're halfway between freedom and total takeover. So we're already, in a sense, under soft martial law.
You don't need me to describe what martial law would look like here in the United States, because you can look at the martial law that we're imposing in Iraq and Afghanistan as a perfect example.
What they're doing is turning the United States into Iraq, and that's really no exaggeration. The same legal structure that applies in Iraq under the laws of war is what they're claiming to be able to do here at home in the United States. And the only real difference is a matter of degree and the right political pretext to actually do it. There's no legal barriers anymore as far as they're concerned. We should never give up that fight, but we are so close to the destruction of the Constitution that it would be foolhardy for us to focus only on legal remedies.
If we allow democracy through negligence and carelessness and the crude ambition for money, power and glory of politicians to be handed away, as we already have in Britain, to a supranational entity which we do not elect and cannot control, then you become just another police state. The freedom of the people will no longer be guaranteed by their own voice and their own vote. There will be an increasing gulf fixed between the governing class, which will wield all realistic power, and the governed, who will wield none. We'll be right back to square one, and all the work of your founding fathers will have been carelessly set at naught by the very people to whom you have entrusted the defense of that Constitution.
We're now in exactly the same position our forefathers were in 1774. Almost a mere reflection.
And the vast majority of us aren't aware of this even existing. It's just painted in a way that anybody that tries to bring it up is crazy or anti-patriotic or anti-American or anti-establishment or whatever, in some way that just makes them look like loonies when maybe they really aren't.
You know, we're not the crazy ones for seeing that false flag terrorism is a military strategy and that the United States military has put it on paper and all of the heads of the military branches signed it and said that's a good idea.
So when you say this is a conspiracy theory, and I'm not going to believe that just as a knee-jerk response. All that does is that tells me that you're so immured in your own version of reality that you can't approach the facts by any reasonable basis.
It's just one big conspiracy? Who knows?
Oh boy, that's the $64,000 question. What do you believe? It could very easily be reality. We just haven't gotten to the point where we go, oh, okay, yeah, that is what's really going on.
Like when people ask me, well, how do you explain this? How can you prove this? I don't have to prove it to you. All I have to do is wait until reality proves it for me. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own fact.
But it really makes you think that, okay, yeah, you know, this movie could reach reality without anybody doing anything about it.
Well, I think that Americans suffer from what you would call in the world of psychology the normalcy bias.
This happens there, but it can't happen here because this is America.
They don't see it happening because they don't want to see it happen.
As Alexis de Tocqueville said, in democracy, people will get the government they deserve. And that wasn't just true about democracy, it's true about all societies and all forms of government. The limits of tyranny will be prescribed by the tolerance of the oppressed.
Gray state is basically a frame of mind that people come to a paradigm. Be obedient and not question anything so that you could get your own needs and your own comforts met.
Some people perhaps don't care. Maybe they are in favor of that type of thing. There's a faction out there that feels very strongly that government should do everything for us.
I pledge to be a servant to our president
and all mankind.
Because together we can. Together we are, and
Right
together
now, for example, more and more people are on welfare, and the government is responsible for their welfare in daily living. And to the extent that the government is doing that for them, they will support the government.
Now, if the food stops, if the free services stop, and I think that could easily happen because I think this whole giant federal edifice could go under. Then you're going to have problems in many of these urban areas.
And I see that probably has taken place to the point where you have a very large contingent of people that are happy with what the government's doing, and they don't like a certain group or a certain faction and would love to see them eliminated.
If you become a political enemy to somebody or you have an ideology that people don't like, look, right now there's a war on raw milk in this country. So if I drink raw milk, then I'm going to become an enemy of some industry, the FDA or the USDA, and now I can be targeted politically. It's happened. People being targeted by the police state because of their political affiliations and beliefs. You know, people's children being taken away from them because they're critical of the government.
As we see a reduction of our freedoms and an enhancement of the size and scope of the government, we can expect to see more raids like this happen to people who the government perceives as dissenters.
Again, that goes back to whether or not the audience will see this and the gravity of the situation will sink in for them. That FEMA's not here to help you. Again, a lot of the people out there in activism are embracing big government. They think that it's that big government should be used for our benefit, that they can use it for our benefit. And the argument being, again, that you can't. That kind of control central power. It's too much control for any one group.
Really shows what could happen in this country if we the people don't get control back of our out of control government.
Now, when you start taking away their freedoms and their rights, if you take enough away, then people are gonna, like, oh, I gotta start standing up for myself. Now, depending on where we are in the world, they might not be able to anymore.
We are American citizens. This is not China. This is not Nazi Germany. And we have a freedom of assembly under the First Amendment Constitution of the United States of America. And we shall uphold our rights as American citizens because we love this country and we love national sovereignty.
You have to get over that idea again that this is just paranoia, that this is just, right-wing conspiracy theorists who hate government no matter what iteration or incarnation it takes.
There has been some things in Gray State that have been almost prophetic.
We thought we wouldn't see what we're seeing right now for 5, maybe 10 years down the road. But now we're seeing it now. Even Time Magazine, top 50 images.
And I saw this picture of riot police that were dressed exactly the same as our rioters did.
The same images that we have in Gray State. It's crazy.
The film came into development long before the Occupy Wall Street movement sort of started happening. It's a very eerie reflection in reality about what the movie is about.
Now these things are starting to come true. Some of the things that we've planned for and shot for, they're starting to come true. If you don't stand up for the things you believe in, these are the events that are going to happen, and some of them are already happening. There's talk about they want to do like pre-crime arrests and also like RFID chip implants in people, so they can track people, they can track your money, track where you are. They can do all these things.
In New York City, they're implementing iris scanners. They've got new handheld models. They haven't announced this yet, but my prediction is before long, they're going to be using the handheld iris scanners in the streets when they do stop and frisks, and they're going to take your photo and scan your iris right there on the street.
Privacy is everything. There's a French philosopher, Lyotard, who talks about how being able to be alone with yourself preserves the essence of what it is to be human. And if you come to the UK, there are cameras everywhere. And when I drive onto the continent, you might go to France, you suddenly go, oh my God, I'm not being watched all of the time.
If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately. Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff.
The chilling effect is very strong because when you are telling people that they're being spied on, the drones, for instance, this new element of drone surveillance going on in the country, a lot of people say that they're just like, well, I have nothing to hide, so why should I care? That's not the point. The point is that when you have a tape recorder out on a table, you're not going to say the same things that you would before. And so when you just know that you're being watched and filmed everywhere you go, you're not going to dissent as much.
The people said that it's always the government that says, oh, if you don't have anything to hide, why are you worried about the Patriot Act? Why are you worried about Echelon? Why are you worried about all these spy systems and data mining? But yet it's those same people that hide in private, that meet in secret, under armed guards, that won't disclose what they're doing, but they want to see, hear what we're doing.
The governor of Virginia recently said that he wanted to have drones here because they've been so successful on the battlefield. He was really unintentionally exposing the destructive nature of this kind of policy on civil society. And you see, hey, look at how great things are going in Afghanistan. We're going to turn Virginia into that and have the same kind of success with our drones.
You may have your LRAD. The LRAD was used in Iraq and Afghanistan against insurgents. You're now using these weapons against the American people. How do you feel about that?
If things continue to go in the direction that they are going, and then some of our freedoms are being chipped away at on a daily, weekly basis, we need to stop and think about what the result of that's going to be.
We have become decadent. We've become proud. We've become arrogant. And worst of all, we have abandoned our Bill of Rights. We've let them take it.
The gray state is a symptom. The disease is statism. And people are evolving past the paradigm of institutionalizing their desires to dominate others by violence and coercion into this thing called government. We're realizing that the morality that we expect ourselves to adhere to, the standards of behavior and conduct, like when you were taught in kindergarten, don't hit and don't steal, it wasn't unless you're a cop or an IRS agent. When you learn thou shalt not kill, it wasn't unless your dear leader gives you a gun and a badge and a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. Those were moral absolutes, but what we are doing now is institutionalizing them in government and creating this moral exception for people that have the socially granted monopoly on the initiation of force over a given geographical area by calling it government and pretending that it's good for us.
We do not want them running everything. We don't need them in all of our business. We don't need them all, particularly in our personal affairs. We don't need them to take away our freedoms.
Something's not right, and it's getting a lot worse before it can actually get better.
It seems like things we were acting out in the parking lot are coming true around the world almost.
Like, hey, this is kind of what's really going on out there in front of your eyes, whether you're aware of it or not.
That's when it really hit me that, yeah, this could really, really happen like this.
Which is, we just can't keep up. That we're hoping that we can get this out before anything bigger and maybe worse would actually happen.
After we were finished filming, I was very much aware of how much people look forward to this movie. It was more than just, oh gosh, I was in this movie. It was like, this is going to be a really exciting thing. This is really going to tell a good story.
Because these things are starting to come true, it's all the more important that we need to make this movie.
This is an excellent tool to to use art to communicate very, very real life concepts.
It's just all the more reason to call attention to it, to portray it, to want to make people see that this is the path we're already on.
The more people who know, the more people who are talking about it, the more people who are waking up, well, the scales start to swing a little bit, don't they?
There's hope, there's a chance that it will resonate with the public in general. That's what I'm hoping for.
A lot of the images within Gray State, there's a lot of deeper meanings within it. Like I said, it's a smart concept trailer. It's intelligent.
This is a concept that's not easily digestible. This is not a popular idea. This doesn't springboard off of any other film's success.
Because it is kind of a controversial thing, and you know, with all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, I'm really curious to see how people will react to it.
I think the audience at large will probably receive the Gray State message in a mixed way.
There is a level of audience that will take it in as a military suspense genre movie. Lots of action, and it's good for, you know, Eddie Izzard eating popcorn. He's just going to eat that up. You also have a level that will spark some controversy. And whether or not both those audience will be satisfied by Gray State it'll be up to them.
I think it could have mixed reviews. I mean, there's people who will be enlightened, there's people who will be entertained. I think there's people who will be disturbed, and people who will be offended by this kind of thing.
I think it's going to make the audience a little bit angry, because I think they are going to believe that the filmmakers on this project are anti-America, because it's not going to portray America in a good light, and it's not going to portray them or us Americans in a good light. Nobody likes having a mirror shown to them, showing their face when they're not at their best, and this is not America at their best.
Gray State will strike a huge nerve, and I think the timing right now is critical. Getting this movie out there and the message behind the movie out there, I think is perfect timing.
You know, there are things that we have to face as Americans, and some of them are pretty and some of them are not pretty, so maybe this will help people to wake up a little bit.
Movies can have the ability to impact a lot of people. A lot of people can get to it, a lot of people can see it, and they can stomach it more than just looking at some words. So I think because these things are starting to come true, it's all the more important that this message needs to get put out there.
Fortunately, you see a lot of documentaries, for example, from within my activist community that are coming out. They're great films, but for the most part, they serve only to appeal to those who are already awake. And I'd like to see more of that appealing across the spectrum. So that's what is appealing about Gray State. It looks, from what I've seen, as a film that's being marketed to the public in general.
I have every faith in the project's success based on just the previous work I've seen the filmmakers do, and also because I think that the story will appeal to a large audience. Because there's more to this film than just a good action flick. It actually has a redeemable message, and I think that it's one of those messages that needs to be shown to people to sort of wake them up and get them thinking again.
Gray State has something very important to say, that there's a danger out there in our society right now, and we need to be aware of what's going on.
The only thing I can't see is the Hollywood ending. Gosh, this is all going to be nice and happy at the end. I can't envision an ending like that.
I mean, the content, come on. It's not feel good, warm, fuzzy, flowery content.
The idea that there may not be a happy ending means that it's a story and not a commercial product. Gray State needs to show that it's not going to be just a matter of, gee, I can't get cell phone signal anymore. It's going to be pretty tough.
It's going to be so visually stimulating, visually appealing. I think it's going to knock your socks off.
So, comparable to the concept trailer, what the future is going to be like, it's going to be something you've never seen before. It's going to be something where the audience they think they have an idea of what the Gray State is, but they really don't. It will challenge the basis of institutions, of your ethics, your morals, and I will put this on the line, even your spiritualism. People will be like, what the hell are you talking about? And all I can say is you have to watch it to actually believe it.
The Gray State movie will bring that point into sharp focus, and the folks that watch the movie, listen to the movie carefully, will come away with a very strong message.
That's kind of bold for an independent group to do. Tell a real serious story, that's going to be a little bit different.
All I can say is that it's going to be an intense ride. But all say more.
It's going to be cool.
You rolling? You rolling? Yeah, we're good. This is John Wannick of the Resistance. I don't know how far this broadcast will reach. They've taken the city. They're trying to erase us. Now more than ever, we need you to act. And if you're receiving this message, you've been recruited. Welcome to the fight, Patriot. Yeah, fight! Our enemies are moving in, and they anticipate us not having the numbers to resist. It is up to you to prove them wrong. Get this message out, and wake up the Patriots! I don't need to remind you what would happen should we fail. One of these days could be our last. By helping and taking action and contributing to the cause, you'll be remembered as taking a stand against the gray state before it completely destroys everything we know. You're inside! Most of us die pointlessly and are forgotten. Do you really want to die without making a sound? Either stand now or kneel forever! You alright? He's coming? He's dead. Keep rolling! Keep rolling! There are only days left. The gloves are off, the safeties are off. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. Diplomacy is over. War is here. If we don't make this happen, history will not remember us!